Hey there, welcome to episode 126 of the Quaggling Sand audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. We are recording this at 3:06 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time here in the Greater Vegas area on Wednesday, April 8, 2026. We normally publish new episodes of Quaggling Sand on Wednesdays in the morning. Well, obviously that's not happening today, but an odd morning full of noise. So I shifted my entire schedule around so we could have some quiet time for just you and me to do this episode. So here we are, episode 126, the title, The Mall. The mall, a shopping mall, the place where you go and hang out, have some snacks from the food court and walk around looking at people, looking at you. If you're not familiar with the Quaggling Sand audio program, it is a walk down memory lane. It is a solo audio essay program. No guests. I don't think there would be any guests. Reflections, recollections, telling of tales. They may be interesting. They may be informative. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll bring back your memories. These are also good for receipts, or sort of an autobiography, a memoir for posterity. Quaggling sand is a term that I coined when I was very young for something that you probably know as pins and needles, the return of circulation to your hand or your foot or your arm or whatever, after you've maybe been sitting funny or laying on it, whatever the limb might be. So as that circulation returns, you feel pins and needles or quaggling sand. Brilliant. Hopefully wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a brief summary, which I'll read to you, and a reasonable, maybe even substantial, certainly more than normal, collection of Wikipedia page links, in addition to the normal 2. These are links about various malls that I'm going to mention here. Not 100%, I didn't go totally crazy, but they might be interesting if you are thinking about your own mall journeys. So let's get started so we get finished on this lovely, warm Wednesday afternoon. Warm here in Vegas anyway. The summary of today's episode then. I have been seeing articles floating around about the end of the mall in the U.S., which of course leads to reflection on my own mall experiences, domestic and otherwise. The first 2 links are the usual program links, quagglingsand.com, QUOGGLINGSAND, S-A-N-D, S-A-N. I pronounced the N-D as if it were one letter. Quagglingsand.com, the homepage for Quaggling Sand. Buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, the profile page linking everything. It is 5 years old. It is, you don't have to spend any money there, or you don't have to spend any money anywhere if you don't want to. Buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo has a freeform profile page with links to all of my audio programming, various projects. There are some affiliate links for things that I actually use. If you are so inclined, you can buy me a coffee if you really want to. All proceeds from this platform do go towards the purchase of coffee or coffee accessories. These are what make all of my efforts go, in addition to cold hard cash. You can also find the Buy Me an Update audio program, which used to be published exclusively on Buy Me a Coffee, hence the name, in the posts section. But now it's posted there first, and then about 2 hours later, it gets published to Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube, etc., etc. The rest of the links, I'm not going to go through them individually, because I'm going to do that through the episode. But a couple of, the links I do have for Paramus Park in New Jersey, Metro Center in Phoenix, Christown in Phoenix, Santana Row in San Jose, Meadows Mall here in Vegas, Fashion Show here in Vegas, Horton Plaza in San Diego, and the Dubai Mall. Give you one guess where that is. So yeah, let's get started. We'll start back east, where I did. I am from New Jersey, maybe not necessarily of New Jersey, but that's a different story. But that was where we, my family, I guess, me as a new addition to it, first experienced a mall known as Paramus Park. I barely remember it at all, but I do remember this mall. It was the beginning of the beginning, so to speak. I seem to recall the overwhelming nature of the mall early on, with high ceilings, people wandering all over, and of course the various stores, probably toy stores, though even back then I would like to think I would have been looking for bookstores as well. When I was working for Intel more recently, although recently is it was a while ago. I worked for Intel in like 2014, so I can't even say I worked there recently. Anyway, certainly more recently than being born in New Jersey. Well, I had a few opportunities to get back to Manhattan or even Queens, and so I was able to visit the classic Macy's location with 9 floors or something, and then 1 or 2 high-rise malls. These are a bit odd by comparison to your typical mall, and 2 or 3 levels might be the usual on a large footprint, but here in a downtown, in a major city such as Manhattan, they're swapped for many floors on a smaller downtown footprint. And while I was not there for shopping per se, it was an interesting. It was interesting so many years later to take in the city as an adult, even though Paramus Park was not on the menu. So I didn't go back to visit Paramus Park, but someday I should head over there and see what I can remember. My mom was working at some point in history at Stearns in a different mall, which I could not tell you what it was called or where it was exactly. I think when we went to see the Star Wars movie back in 1977, now called A New Hope, I seem to remember going to Stearns first. So it must have been near that mall. Who knows? I was very young. The Stearns in a different mall. We'll talk about Joski's in one sentence. I cannot tell you what the mall was called, but the classic anchor store, your Sears, your Dillard's, used to be Diamonds or whatever else, JCPenney, etc. Exposure to another mall way back then, and a segue to Joski's at Metro Center Mall in Phoenix when we eventually moved there when I was just about to turn 6 years old. I can't remember how that works because I was 1977, I was 6 years old, right? I was about to turn 6 years old. Anyway, I did see Star Wars in New Jersey. We moved to Phoenix. When we first moved to Phoenix, we happened to take a temporary spot in some apartments that were almost literally across the street from Metro Center Mall, at the time one of the largest malls in the U.S., way back when, and the largest mall in Arizona. Stearns and Joski's were owned by the same parent company, so our temporary arrangements were several, including my mom working there. But here again, the mall was a sort of center of the initial and ongoing experience there in the desert. Growing up in Phoenix, we made frequent trips to Metro Center Mall, but we just called it Metro. Though my mom only worked there briefly at Joski's before moving on towards far more interesting pursuits. I probably have mentioned before, my mother is a world-renowned kitchen designer. That's putting it mildly. The Waldens and B. Dalton bookstores always drew me in at the mall there, stores in which I would pass the time while others, my mom, other people we went there with, etc., were getting their shopping on. Later, I would work at the McDonald's inside this mall. That was at the Broadway end of the mall. I couldn't tell you what's there today. I think it's Macy's, men's Macy's, something, maybe. Don't remember. Later, I would work at McDonald's inside this mall. The Metro would be the home base. Metro would be the home base for passing the time, catching movies, and playing games in the arcade. This is when I was in high school. They had a small arcade inside and a freestanding thing known as Golf and Stuff, which I'll mention again, and even some ice skating. They had an ice skating rink on the lower level near where the movie theater and the arcade were, in the food court area. That was a crazy high school friendly environment. They got rid of the ice skating rink, and I don't remember what they changed it to. Metro Center is no more, or largely no more, so I couldn't even go there and tell you. There were a lot of malls in the area in Phoenix and so on. Christown was another mall we frequented for their movie theater. There was a Town and Country and some other spots with movie theaters, and especially the midnight movie selections over the summers. Metro Center, though, was always the home base, with the circle around it with yet more movie theater and restaurant options, Golf and Stuff, miniature golf, and the arcade games inside. It was shaped like a Kremlin-style castle, and so much more going on at the Metro Center. I cannot begin to imagine how many hours were spent wandering around inside that mall or around the circle. And by the way, if you caught Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure when it came out way back when, the scenes in a mall with the exercise equipment and so on, that was shot in Metro Center after the mall would close in the evenings, 9 p.m., I think. And this was while I was working at McDonald's. So if I was closing, which I often was, I would, you could literally walk through the mall after hours, and there they are. There's all the equipment, all the stuff going on. So that was fun. Such times. Southern California, headed off to college. I left my car behind, so I was less likely to wander over to a mall to kill some time when homework was so much more fun. We did on occasion head to Riverside to visit Tower Records, which was outside of a mall there, so you could go into that mall, of course. And we had 2 malls within a reasonable walk from the Harvey Mudd College campus. Harvey Mudd is in Claremont, California. There was an outdoor town and country style walkable mall. I don't know if it was called Downtown Claremont, but that's essentially what it was. So you could head over to the whatever it was called. I probably went there 2 or 3 times in my 4 years. It was good for an occasional visit to get off campus, I suppose, for a bit of a change of scenery. And then there was the Montclair Mall, which was a proper indoor shopping mall. And yes, in the next town over, called Montclair, next to Claremont. That was creativity at work. But I walked to that mall maybe 2 or 3 times. Also, if somebody drove over there, we might head over. If I recall correctly, it was near something that would eventually become a Costco, I think. So it was some, bulk shopping. Great for picking up some macaroni and cheese for college students. Frequent visits to Southern California after I graduated and moved. Would land at the Beverly Center, for example. Some of the people I would meet up with lived in that area. Not to mention Melrose, of course, which is a town-sized mall, if you really think about it. And, of course, visits to Thai Town, which was not quite as grandiose as Melrose, but which was still a collection of strip malls and larger stores and restaurants, like a town and country style mall, but with the streets. So, a shopping district, when you think about it. The Melrose and Thai Town visits were interesting when I compared some of the shake and bake community shopping areas in the Bay Area and then a place like Pasadena, where I would also go more after I had graduated, even though it was a very long trip down a long street from Harvey Mudd, home of Caltech, of course. Around the Caltech campus, there was this sort of shopping district, but much more laid back. You would really just call it downtown Pasadena or something. It was like an organically grown outdoor mall of sorts. You could quite easily wander down. Some other college friends lived a couple of blocks away from this little hub, and it was very pleasant. But it had more of a natural feel, a natural feel and appeal. So it didn't feel like it was built, more that it evolved based on foot traffic and just the general feel, like a coffee shop that you would actually go, and it's not contrived. Even though SoCal is hot in the summer, Southern California, it's hot in the summer, of course. Outdoor malls seem to catch on in one way or another as walkable shopping districts, maybe. So it was nice. I didn't wander around Southern California nearly so much as I did Northern California. When I moved to Silicon Valley in 1993, I had a lot more pointing to shopping or generally visiting shopping spots than in college in Southern California or high school in Phoenix. Of course, I had a car, which I did not have in college. I had some income, which I also barely had in college, and people to hit the mall with now and then. I mentioned Pasadena, which is, of course, in Southern California. And here I will mention Santana Row in San Jose, which had at the time when they built it and has the feel of a walkable community shopping district, mixed use. So there are some residential elements, apartments or condos or something, with streets running through. But it was absolutely shake and bake property. It was built specifically. It was a designed shopping district. Across the street, literally from the Valley Fair Mall, which was a classic higher-end indoor multi-level mall. So you kind of had the best of both worlds. If you wanted to get your shopping on, you could head over to the Valley Fair, you could do your thing, and then you could wander over to Santana Row to feel as though you were wandering around in a quaint little downtown community of sorts. Yay. The Bay Area was, when I was there, and probably still is, it's been a while, probably still is dripping with shopping, but also walkable downtown shopping districts, especially near the stations on the Caltrain tracks running from San Jose to San Francisco on the peninsula. I lived in Sunnyvale, which is kind of at the south tip of the Bay Area. So I actually lived, a 3 or 4 minute walk to the train station. So I took the Caltrain up to San Francisco when I was working in San Francisco. So one town to the north and easily, one train stop away was Mountain View, with a substantial walkable downtown. And how many times did I stop off there or at Hillsdale Mall on the way down from on the way down the tracks from San Francisco? A couple of cool spots in Oakland and Berkeley, and some reasonably nice weather most of the year probably contributed to the leaning toward open air malls. And of course, turning your downtown into a walkable shopping district with restaurants and retail and, hangouts near train stations was encouraging people to stop on their commutes. If you had a monthly pass, as I did, doesn't really matter if I hop off, go visit the mall, go visit Redwood City, which was similar also, then jump back on the train when the next train came an hour later. So totally doable. I would do that frequently. But there was really, I think the weather contributed. Of course, in the winter it would get colder, but the summers were not so bad. Usually there was about 2 weeks of heat wave. I don't know if that's still true today. Maybe stuff would be on fire. I don't know. But closed malls were still around, of course, but fresh air and walkable are winners. So I think those really were just sort of naturally evolved. So sort of like Pasadena, right? So where I lived, downtown Sunnyvale, was basically one street. It was Murphy Avenue. Tiny. And the area was blighted, so that didn't help. But downtown, there was the downtown Murphy Avenue. And then there was a town and country mall, which was run down and blighted and kind of unappealing. And then there was a Sunnyvale Mall, which was small and largely empty. I'm going to talk about that pretty much now. Phoenix is obviously Phoenix, which is almost certainly what made larger indoor malls that were a bit more decadent the prevailing wisdom there. I mean, it was hot, still is. Near Sunnyvale, we had our little mall, small, and a little town and country. I think it was actually a town and country. I was going to say styled, but I think it is an actual branded, or was a branded town and country, with a collection of shops literally next door to the blighted downtown. So all of downtown Sunnyvale was rife for urban redevelopment. It was a business improvement district. Some other controversy around that for another time. Sorry about that. I had some crazy noise from my upstairs noisy Raymond neighbor. So yeah, Phoenix being so hot as it often is, and actually quite cold in the winter, classic desert. So I think indoor malls made more sense, and they certainly were many. So we had our little mall near Sunnyvale, a little town and country that was a little bit awful, the blighted downtown. Both were dismal failures, the small mall and the town and country. More recently won over, though, with a shake and bake walkable mixed use downtown, similar to Santana Row. So at some point, when I was living there, so this was a dozen years ago or more, actually more, that was the thing. Downtown Sunnyvale is going to be, mixed use. There's going to be apartments and new shopping and all sorts of trendy restaurants and other fun times. And it just took a decade. They started kind of putting it together after I had left. Coincidence? The big thing there was the Target. They put a Target in there, and that was supposed to be the anchor of sorts for this walkable downtown Sunnyvale. Downtown Sunnyvale was always walkable. It just didn't have anything to encounter when you were walking. Murphy Avenue was 200 yards long? And yet it had 4 coffee shops. Good times. Over in Cupertino, home of Apple, a dismal failure of a mall literally down the street from Valley Fair and Santana Row, which I mentioned earlier. So they were on Stevens Creek. the street. Stevens Creek also is where you would find the Cupertino Mall. I couldn't even tell you what it was called. Cupertino Mall and the Sunnyvale Mall they were like walking into a mall that was either going to open someday, like a lot of empty shop bays. I don't know, places where you could have a store, but there was none, or which was actually the case, a mall or two that were destined to be shut down or dramatically reimagined someday. I don't know how the Cupertino Mall fared. The downtown Sunnyvale Mall had a movie theater, which I saw one movie there, and it was not a pleasant place, the whole mall. And there was a Macy's corporate-owned store, a Macy's store at the mall, which was their primary anchor. And for a while, it was the only thing that was actually open. The entire mall had eventually shut down in pursuit of the downtown improvements and so on. So Macy's was it. So you had your Macy's and you had your Target. Good times. They were actually supposed to open a movie theater, a Cinemark movie theater downtown. That all fell through. So, not the most successful thing, but it was an interesting timeline to observe while I was there in the Bay Area. Then I moved to Vegas almost 13 years ago. It'll be 13 years in mid-July, although technically August 1st. We'll call it August 1st. It'll be 13 years. Living up in the actual city of Las Vegas, so I don't really live too close to the Strip. I think it's about 12 miles to the Stratosphere, which is, I will call the north end of the Strip. So I live in the actual city of Las Vegas, where there are no malls nearby me. There are there are shopping centers that are basically large strip malls. There's where Walmart is, there's Trader Joe's. So in these spots, there are a collection of stores. So they're strip malls. They're not quite the same as a walkable shopping district or certainly an indoor mall. But we have shopping. We have places to go to shop up where I live. I live in the Centennial Hills area, if you are familiar. There are casinos. So near where I am, there is the Santa Fe Station, one of the station casinos, of course. I visited there in the early days when I was like, oh, hey, I can just go to this casino and see what's up, take in the buffet or do whatever. So they do have, and Aliante in North Las Vegas is a little bit more upscale than that, but these are off-strip properties, which means they don't center so much on like full range services and family appeal and so on. So when I say they're kind of like a mall, they're more like the food court of a mall. You may find a pizza place and a sandwich place or whatever, right? So they're not amazing, but that's about as close as you'll get to a mall near where I live. And of course, a variety of family-friendly malls on and near the Strip, not to mention the spots in Summerlin and downtown or down in Henderson. There's a downtown there, but the actual, I cannot remember the name of the mall, but there's a mall that you can, you can get a normal mall experience there too in Henderson. On the Strip, though, you're looking at, Fashion Show is the obvious. It's probably the more interesting, classic upper end and standalone shopping mall. It's got your usual collection of stores. It has a really big feel to it. It's got an interesting layout with stores on the outside of the mall facing the Strip. So it gives you this sense that the mall is open to the Strip. We'll get into where not doing that can be a problem right at the end of this episode. I've probably been to Fashion Show about a dozen times in the 13 years I've lived here. I'll call it a dozen. 3, and I was thinking it might be 4, but 3 of those were to visit a Capital One co-work space right there inside the mall. It's the size of a normal sized storefront. It's tables and chairs, and it has a little central coffee shop hub right in the middle of it. They don't bother you at all. They're happy to have you come in and sit down and do your thing as long as you want. That seems like the best feature of any mall I've ever been to. It's an interesting idea, and the Deuce bus, if I want to head down there, the Deuce drops me off not far from the entrance near the actual co-work space. As a typical mall, there's multiple entrances on different sides and all that. But it's decent for meetups and so on, all 3 of them, where I would like to go sort of a central location. So, because I live up north, some people live in other places, as they are wont to do. So downtown Las Vegas or that where the fashion show is are reasonably central. There and so at some point there was this trend towards family friendly resorts. So a lot of your strip properties also have a mall. So Venetian Palazzo has the Grand Canal Shops. Resorts World has a mall, but it's more of a. I think their food court is probably the most interesting part of that. The food hall is the new thing. The Caesars Forum shops. What else? Bellagio has Bellagio, the Wynn, Encore. Even though the Wynn is attached to the fashion show by a bridge, they have super high end, unreasonably expensive shops. If you want to shop on the property, probably I'm going to say the Grand Canal Shops are of the resort malls are that's probably the most reasonable place to visit if you're going to go shopping. A fashion show is a normal mall for the most part. We do, and I actually like, I mean, if I was going to go wandering around in a mall, as we used to do when I was in high school, far too much time spent wandering around. But hey, you're in from the heat. So if it's, it looks by all indications like we're going to have a nice hot summer. So if I were headed downtown, maybe onto the Strip, there is no mall downtown in downtown Vegas. There is the Arts District, which we'll get to in a second, but so if you want to go inside and you don't want to hang out in a casino, a fashion show is fine. It's probably the place that you would go if you said, hey, let's go wander around a mall and do some random shopping and whatever. There is an actual mall off the Strip that's just an absolutely traditional mall. It's called the Meadows Mall. Sadly, so if I needed to get a Cinnabon or have a knife sharpened or some scissors sharpened or something, maybe an odd gift of some kind, the Meadows Mall is the place to go. It's just a normal mall in Las Vegas that happens, it happens to be in Las Vegas, but once you're inside, it doesn't have any Vegas thing going on. But you have to go there with a car. As far as I'm aware, I sold my car about 8 years ago, I think it was. And as far as I'm aware, Meadows really doesn't have bus access. The buses don't run there conveniently for me anyway. So a fashion show on the Strip is actually easier to get to, even though it's twice as far away. I would go to Meadows Mall, which is half the distance, if a bus actually stopped near there, but it's not. And plus, I really don't go to malls too much. Such is the mobility situation in Las Vegas, but that's the way it is. Same with Summerlin. It's kind of a pain to get to Summerlin, and it takes forever to get to Henderson. So I generally don't imagine, hey, let me head down to Henderson and do some shopping. Just not practical. We also have 2 outlet malls, at least, north and south. I think it's literally the Las Vegas outlets north or something like that. The north location is much closer to me than the south. If I were to go to them, the north, I think the south is very similar. The north is a kind of an open air mall, so it looks like a mall, but there's no roof. So it's all sidewalks. It's not like it's closer to a town and country. There are no streets, so it's not like a shopping district. If you want to head to the Cheesecake Factory, there's one of those somewhere down there. I don't think it's in the outlets. I think is it in the outlets? It's been a while. It might be down there somewhere. There's the World Market, which is like a private indoor mall for design, interior design work and so on. So you have to be a licensed wholesaler or licensed designer or something to go into this place. It's very nice. It looks like a multi-story mall with a lot of home furnishings, home design, kitchen, bath, plumbing, all the stuff. It's like a super high-end Home Depot with some furniture stores. So that's I guess not so bad. That's sort of near where the north outlets are, and the south outlets are down towards the airport. Yeah, I don't find myself wanting to go to those places. But there is a town square also near the airport, which reminds me of Santana Row. It has a Container Store, if that's still open. It has a Whole Foods, a big IMAX movie theater, various little restaurants and shops and so on. So it's Santana Row. In recent years, Vegas is leaning into much more of a modern gathering spot mode, little mini malls of sorts, maybe open air or hybrid, sort of open and closed and so on. Places like the Uncommons on the southwest side and Area 15, which is just to the west of the Strip, like right on the other side of the freeway, if you're familiar, which is more of an experiential destination than an actual proper mall, although it's structured like a mall. So I think it's 2 stories. I think they recently had an addition, but I think it's basically the part that I've been to. 2 stories. Omega Mart is there if you're familiar. It's actually worth checking out. Pretty much kid friendly. Yeah, I'm going to say it's kid friendly. So it's an experiential destination though. So it's not a place where you'd go to shop, but it's certainly a place where you could go and hang out. It's got restaurants, at least 1 bar. It's visually appealing. And I don't know if they still have the arcade with the pool tables. Another experiential place inside Area 15 shut down recently. So not sure if people are getting into the experiential part, but the small mall is kind of a little trendy thing lately. It's got multiple attractions. Yeah, I would go there, but it's a pain to get to for us users of public transit. At the same time, downtown Las Vegas has become a combination of downtown project leftovers and a partial slide back towards blight. Downtown is not necessarily a place that I would recommend people to go hang out if you're going to go off Fremont Street, where the canopy, what's it called? I can't remember what it's called. It's the LED lit, or LED lighted canopy, colorful, lots of sound and visual. What is it called? It's part of the Fremont Street experience. And Viva Vision, that's what it's called. The Viva Vision. I didn't even have to look it up. An homage to Elvis, perhaps. Viva Vision. You got the Circa, the newest resort on the it's not the property, it's on the downtown footprint. Then you have other random restaurants and stuff that are left over from downtown projects. So it's kind of like it's kind of half Pasadena style and half Santana Row style, in that downtown Las Vegas is a real place that has existed for decades, but it's also received some improvement. It's been blighted. It's received some more improvement. It was where the downtown project was centered. So there were some changes, and so it's always going through something. But the downtown Las Vegas area is not as walkable a downtown as is the Arts District, which is, right next door, essentially. The Arts District, sometimes called 18B, has become the new local place to hang out and so on, with all the usual kind of trendy places, bars, restaurants, small shops. If you're looking for vintage clothing, that's where you want to go. I haven't been to the Arts District forever, but they do have a stand-up comedy place called Wise Guys. I've done open mic there a couple times. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it kind of feels, again, like a Pasadena style, evolved over time. There's been some investment that has resulted in rents going up. So it's no longer where you'd find your starving young artist, unless they're really hungry. But it's all walkable mixed-use district, sort of like Pasadena has evolved this way. But the Arts District here in Vegas is sprinkled with some grunge. So it definitely feels like a natural evolution. It's not so shake and bake. So some notable thing, and by the way, the reason I'm talking about all this is that I think malls have certainly played a role in my own personal journey, if you will. I cannot emphasize enough how much time we spent at Metro Center or other malls in pursuit of movies or just killing time. To give you some idea, the Metro Center Mall, 2 stories. So one of our ways to pass the time, we took a $20 bill, photocopied it onto green paper, only the part you would see when you fold the bill in half, the short way, right? So a folded over $20 bill. So we got a piece of paper that was a green paper that was about the size of a $20 bill, photocopied the front half so that if it was sitting on the floor folded over, it looked like somebody dropped a $20 bill. It wasn't even the proper green. It was literally like photocopier green paper, right? Black ink, right? We spared much expense to arrive at this prop. But then we would take the folded fake $20 bill and we'd leave it on the ground in the mall, and we'd go upstairs and we just watch people walking by, and you'd see people walk by and they would kick it and they'd look down at it and kind of get an examined look. Some people would pick it up and then they would walk along and nonchalantly drop it back down on the ground. And we'd get people that were, they would pick it up and then they'd look around like, okay, who's watching me? So yeah, that was our big way to pass the time in the summer heat. But yeah, mostly movies. There was a lot of movies and arcade game playing. And so yeah, good times. The notables, a couple of the sort of memorable mall experiences. I spent many weeks in Ireland, in Dublin and nearby while I was working for Intel. And I had a few opportunities to hit the mall when I was staying in Liffey Valley. The first time I went to Ireland, I really didn't have a booking because it was short notice, and then it was during the Easter holiday, and it was like I wasn't sure where I was going to be, but I couldn't get accommodations across Easter, so I basically had to stay at 3 different places for the 5 weeks I was there. I think it was 5 or 6 weeks. So in the middle, I was in Liffey Valley, which was a reasonable spot along a bus route. I think it was the 66 bus to go from the hotel to where I was working in Leixlip. So I could jump on the bus, get right to work, drop me off right in front of the building. So pretty ideal from a commuting standpoint. So I could also walk down this street, which was, there was the hotel I was staying at, which had a restaurant, Lemongrass Thai restaurant, I think it was. And then some minor stuff. I think there was an office building and then a lot of empty field. It was right near highway. I can't remember what they call them there. So it was a pretty open area, ready to go for any improvements. But there was the Liffey Valley Shopping Center, probably a mile. So I needed to top up my Leap card, which I used to ride the buses. So I'd walk over to the mall. I think I was in this location for 2 weeks. So I think I went there at least 2 or 3 times to do that. So you go to a newsagent, you top up your card, you're all good to go. I could do that in any number of places, but I was like, oh, I can just walk over to the mall and I'll check out the mall and see what's going on. Haven't been to a mall in a minute. So I was walking around the mall and it was pretty, I'm going to say it was not bustling. So I went upstairs to where the food court was, and that's where I discovered Cafe Free, Frei, Cafe Free, Hungarian coffee shop that would prepare coffees in the traditional manner from different parts of the world. And I had some amazing coffees there. I was like, are there other places in the U.S., or maybe some in the U.S. of this very small chain of coffee shops? No, of course not. So it was a Hungarian shop, and it still is. They for some reason, they had this really interesting and unusual, not you're just, everything's an espresso shot, depending on how much milk and water we add to it. Starbucks, right? So I was like, oh my God, this is so unusual, right? You could get an Arabic coffee, a Turkish coffee, basically. You could get a Nicaraguan tobacco coffee, which I did have and is amazing. You could get an Ethiopian, like all kinds of coffees that they would prepare in the traditional manner in as much as they were able to. So I said, oh, what is this doing in the Liffey Valley Mall in the food court? This could easily be in Temple Bar downtown, Dublin, or this seemed like the perfect spot to have in an airport, right? Oh, I can get a coffee similar to back home, or I've never had a Nicaraguan tobacco coffee. How perfect. So to me, it didn't make sense that they were in this mall, but that is where I encountered it, at the Liffey Valley Shopping Center. Unfortunately, Cafe Free did not last long there. I think it was 2 trips later, I stopped by the mall because I could just jump on the bus from Intel and check it out. And I could jump on the same bus and head to downtown Dublin. So it was easy to stop off, go over to the mall, and see that the Cafe Free had become just a normal sandwich shop at some point. So hopes dashed. But I would definitely, they have a location in Dubai. Hopefully it's still there. I think they have one in France. I think they have one in, do they have one in Slovakia? Anyway, Cafe Free. You can check it out if you want. It's so disappointing. So it didn't last too long, but that's the way it is. Like too many places. How about so many places? Like so many places in Europe, downtown Dublin was another walkable mixed-use district, but it's just Dublin. These are most definitely evolved over time. They're just they're a working downtown, so nobody went, oh, let's turn Dublin into a place where people wander around and shop. So you got your pubs, you got your stores, and you got your services. So I went to the Grafton Barber a couple times while I was across my many trips. So it was basically a big open town and country style shopping experience if you want to look at it that way, but it's just Dublin. So Grafton Street, what's the other one? What Grafton and I can't remember the name of the parallel street, which was much more sort of normal. It'll come to me where Cafe and Sign is. That place is super cool. A super pub. Definitely want. Anyway, so my being drawn to a mall like downtown introduced me to yet more of the Dublin. And so that part of the place is not so touristy. Temple Bar, definitely touristy. So totally different, even though they're connected to each other. You could literally walk between them. It'd be a substantial walk. But that's the nature of European cities, is that they tend to be walkable, and they tend to be, well, an American town and country or Santana Row style, especially if it's been built that way, will sort of bring back the feelings of these naturally emergent shopping districts, which are actually just downtown. I've never been to Mall of America, but I did visit the Dubai Mall almost every day when I was there. Dubai is rather warm. I was there in November when I was there, and it was still hot. So it was a nice stop in to avoid the heat of the day every day. Allegedly, it has 1,200 shops. It is huge. I can say from my experience there that I really don't have a need to visit malls like this for much other than the cool weather inside. Cool, literally. I was at the Dubai Mall. If I were to go to Mall of America, it would be to say I was at the Mall of America, but there's really no value to me to have so many. It's just so vast, and it's not appealing so much. I visited a substantial multi-story mall spread across a couple of high-rise buildings in Bangkok. Similar desire to make big mall visits a habit. Not. Perhaps this is it's noteworthy as we are in the midst of a 2-week ceasefire with Iran, during the worst idea for a war in recent history. But as it turns out, the Iran Mall in Tehran is apparently the largest mall in the world. So no word on whether it still is. You never know. Especially with AI calling the shots now. So you never, if AI doesn't like malls, it might be over. But if I ever found myself in Tehran, I would probably check it out. But I'm definitely not going to go to Minnesota nor Tehran to check out these super big malls. There was a time when I would have gone to Minnesota. Oh, Mall of America, I go check that out. That sounds pretty cool. But Finally, a word on what I will remember as the coolest shopping mall I have ever actually visited. And it wasn't that it was the biggest or had the most of something. It was while I was in high school, spending some time at the USMCRD, the Marine Corps Recruit Depot, in San Diego with some Navy JROTC people. I've mentioned before I was in the Air Force JROTC unit in Sunny Slope High School, and we did a little crossover program. So I went with the Navy JROTC folks for their summer plan, and then I think we invited somebody from their unit to go to an Air Force event at Luke Air Force Base. So we spent an evening out while we were in San Diego at the Horton Plaza, which I have linked to, which was a rather eclectic outdoor style mall that may have conjured Winchester House impressions with the layout and the movement through the multi-floor structure. So I say it was an open air mall in a multi-story enclosed mall. So it didn't really have a roof, but it did have the walls of a mall. So you were in a mall, but you also happen to receive, fresh air, sunlight, and so on. And the Winchester House, because it had random walkways, and it just had a feeling that it wasn't your usual mall. So I enjoyed it. Sadly, the entire plaza was facing inward. So I referenced the fashion show mall here in Vegas. They point some of the stores, like there's an outer part of the mall structure that faces the strip. So there are stores that you can get to directly. You can be walking on the strip past the fashion show mall, and you can say, "Hey, let me go into that restaurant or whatever." And the entrance to the food court is also on that side of the building, so you can walk directly in and grab a whatever from the food court. So this gives the impression that the fashion show is a part of the strip, even though most of the fashion show is inside. And yes, the name sounds like it's not a shopping mall, but fashion show is a substantial mall hidden behind this a working facade of outdoor facing stores. So Horton Plaza didn't have that. And unfortunately for them, the Gaslight District became popular. I was in high school, so we didn't really hang out there. But I think probably twice I've been to the Gaslight District. San Diego's not a frequent destination for me, but there was an Intel office in San Diego, and some of our team was based there, so I had been there a couple times. So the Gaslight District became popular with its walkable outdoor district style, like Pasadena or maybe Santana Row, somewhere in there. I'm differentiating Pasadena as like an organic, evolved downtown sort of shopping district, walkable, pleasant, a place where you would go and hang out, versus a place that was built, purpose built to seem like Pasadena, as an example. I don't think Pasadena is a model. I don't think it was the basis for all this, but it's a place that it was probably the first time I really thought about how this works. Town and Country and Santana Row, these are contrived. They're shake and bake, right? Oh, let's build a mall that looks like it's an outdoor, open air community neighborhood. So the Gaslight District had that, whereas Horton Plaza was faced in on itself. So it was more of a silo, not as appealing, and kind of fell out of favor. It's too bad. It was a creative thing that we just don't see much of in the mallish, gathering, shopping, wandering landscape. Everything's very formulaic. Even our little mini mall thing that we have going on in Vegas now, I think you basically have more facing out. So they're not silos as much, but also they're pretty much the usual. So I must admit, I do not spend nearly so much time in these things as I once did. Maybe I'm missing out. I don't know. But I'd like to think that I'm mall friendly, but I definitely do not have the same desire to visit malls that I once did when I was wandering around with friends in high school. When I was in Dublin, I was there for 6 weeks, like I said. When I was staying closer to downtown, Liffey Valley was still a bit of a drive or a bus ride. And when I was staying in Leixlip, I was very near my workplace, but very far from everything else. So I took the train instead of the bus. So I'd jump on the train, go to Connolly Station, hang out in Dublin. So I literally went to the mall it was a mall of sorts. It was a sort of an unusual mall, also on Grafton, that Dawson Street is the street next to Grafton. So there you go. So I went to this mall to buy some extra clothes because I was like, oh, I got to find a place to do laundry. There were laundromats that would close at 6. So by the time I would get back to my hotel, couldn't do laundry. So that was kind of a challenge. But so I needed like an extra week. I did manage to find places to do laundry, but it was not as easy as I would have liked. But anyway, so the malls are kind of a default, like they're a safe bet. I'll probably find what I'm looking for there. I don't have to look for a particular spot. I didn't really know where to look. This was, by the way, before, when I first arrived in Ireland, I didn't have a SIM that would work in Ireland. So I had to go track down. I got a 3 SIM. Today, of course, Google Fi or other services that are universal. So you pretty much have phone service, thus internet access, thus Google Maps and shopping resource searches and so on. But a mall is always a place where you're probably going to find what you're looking for if you can find a reasonable shopping mall. Sometimes you'll find a Hungarian coffee shop. Who knew? The food, and so here in Vegas, food halls have replaced food courts and buffets. So now you can go to the Resorts World Food Hall. You can go to there's an entire mall-like structure. Where is it? It's where, the Miracle Mile shops. This is like an open air mall. It's a little bit, it's more simplified. It's not, doesn't have a neighborhood feel, but lots of restaurants there. I think that's where Wahlburger is, if you're into Mark Wahlberg and his hamburger universe. So yeah, there's a variety of these things in Vegas that are kind of interesting. I'm sort of shocked though that they don't offer more cafe free style experiences. So some international flair that's legitimate. You can certainly find different ethnic food spots here in Vegas. Not as much as I would have thought. It's the way it is. But yeah, to me, a mall is a safe bet, but it's no longer the destination it once was when I was growing up. So maybe I got that out of my system early. I don't know. But as it is today, the thought of going to fashion show to that Capital One spot is like, if somebody said, "Do you want to meet up there?" I'd be like, "Well, okay." But I don't find myself clamoring to like throw my stuff in my backpack and go hang out in a mall and work in a co-work space inside the mall. It is a cool thing. It's a cool idea, and I'm glad it exists. And it has come in handy those 3 times, maybe 4, but I think it's 3. But I think malls could use for a refresh, or maybe they are going away. I've read somewhere that they're being converted to office spaces and maybe some mixed use residential. Interesting times, but yeah, bottom line, malls have been a big part of some parts of my own personal journey, so I thought they would be story worthy. You can be the judge of that. I'm glad I did. I went to the Dubai Mall. You actually go to the mall to enter the Burj Khalifa tour entrance, right? So you get your tickets, you go in to the base of Burj Khalifa. It's kind of underground, I guess. So you get your ticket, you wait in line, you're in the mall. So it's all part of a big entertainment complex. They also have the magic fountains, or the dancing fountains maybe, which is essentially like a Bellagio style, not quite as cool. But so they've kind of recreated some of the Vegas or some of the destination tourist walkability effect. Downtown Dubai, I think, is an entire project to offer these sorts of things. So I'm glad I went to the Dubai Mall because it is a vast place. But when you think about it, I'm not going to go into 1,200 stores. So it's visually impressive. And of course, they got big numbers, but it's also kind of a waste. When I was in Shenzhen, there's the electronics market there. Okay, that's kind of interesting. It's kind of a mall for nerds. But yeah, you just run into the same formula, which is like, okay, we're in a mall. They got the food court. We can go get a Starbucks, or we can go get bubble tea or pearl tea. Great. So then what you end up with is going into a giant warehouse with stores in it. So I think what I come away with is the downtown. And I have said that Dublin is like a working tourism spot. Like, you're going to run into people there, they're on their way or are already at work. So unlike Vegas, yes, people are working here, but it's built for tourists. Dublin is built for people doing their jobs and living their lives in Dublin, and it happens to be appealing to people visiting. So I think that is much more appealing than indoor malls. Of course, when you're in Vegas, we're going to have temperatures that are almost as hot as Phoenix. So being at an indoor mall like Fashion Show is probably more summer friendly than going to a much smaller but as nice, perhaps, spot like Town Square, which is completely open air and farther down the street. It is literally down the strip near the airport. So anyway, the mall, and again, I was reminded of this because I'm now seeing more headlines that the traditional U.S. mall is going away, slowly but surely. And I guess that could be true. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for entertaining my recollections. And I'll see you at the mall sometime. Catch you later. Bye-bye.